What is up, YouTube? It's Rahul. We're back with a new set. Evolving Skies is out, and I don't know if you guys have been able to get your hands on product, but if you have, that's freaking amazing. I haven't yet, but what I wanted to talk about today is when a new set comes out, what cards do you need to buy for competitive play? And with competitive play potentially on the horizon, right around the corner, locals are coming back, everything is coming back. It's best to get your hands on cards now when things are still cheap. So I'm going to talk about what my potential buy list is right now and why I have certain things at certain places and etc. etc. So if you want to come along with this journey with me, come please. It'll be great. It'll be fun. And if you're enjoying all my content, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It would help me a ton. Leave a comment below what your favorite card in Evolving Skies is, what your most favorite card slash deck you're excited for. And you can catch me on twitch.tv slash the flea as well when the set drops on PTCGO for some content. So I'll switch over to the PowerPoint and let's get into it. What to buy from Evolving Skies. Now, I'm going to be looking at my left monitor a little bit more than I usually do, just because I have all these cards in Japanese scans right now. So to read the cards and not kind of misinterpret slash like mistranslate some of the cards that I'm reading, I'm going to be consistently looking over and making sure I have things correctly on my notes. So please forgive me if my eyes are not like straight ahead all the time. So what to buy from Evolving Skies. I didn't take much of a look at this set list prior to the set coming out. I actually kind of forgot that the window between the like June, July set and the August set is so short because we don't have Worlds right now. And usually one set comes like right before NAIC and then the other set kind of comes right before Worlds. So that time frame has kind of been gone in my mind of like how I want to do things. So I kind of forgot Evolving Skies was coming out until I even went on Twitter this past weekend and I saw people opening product and I was like, wow, I totally dropped the ball on this. So I'm back from my long vacation with my family. Should not be taking any more trips or anything anytime soon. So I'm here for content and I decided that the buy list would be the best first video to make coming back besides my 10K video yesterday. So if you haven't checked out what happened at the post-rotation event that I played in New Jersey, check that out. It will be added as a card in the video. So yeah, let's jump into the video. So I categorize this video into a couple cards, a couple things. Must buy cards, which I think are going to be your staples of competitive, your must buy, must have for decks. You need these cards to kind of get certain archetypes rolling. And then I have cards that I think are cool, interesting. I don't really believe in entirely, but I think would be very interesting to experiment with if I pulled them, but I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to purchase them unless I really, really believed in their potential or had something that was game breaking enough that I thought was cool. And then I have cards that I have like listed under the not worth investing under. And those are simply cards that I would never buy. But if I had them, I would be okay with. So I didn't really list like the entire set because there's a lot of cards in the set, obviously, that are like filler cards that are not really worth investing in. So I figured I would just put some of those cards in there that kind of fill that quota of just being cards that I would pull and be like okay with and put them aside, but they wouldn't be cards necessarily that I would want to play or like fall into the trap of buying. So I'll start with my must buy cards. They're all like divided into slides. Let me turn off my my webcam is blocking. That's not good. Let me shrink my webcam. Oh, we are. Hello, can you please? Oh my god. Okay. My webcam is being a brat. So we're just gonna. Okay, I'm gonna start talking and we'll figure the webcam out as we go. So here's my must buy cards. A lot of them are 4-ofs, as you are noticing in the video. And the reason for that is simply being that, well, a lot of these cards do rely on having 4 copies of them in the deck. That's how strong they are because of how powerful they are. So the first must-buy line that I wanted to talk about is the Leafeon line. Now, Leafeon V, you could probably necessarily play a 3-3 line or a 4-3 line, but I feel like from the Leafeon list that I have been seeing, a lot of Leafeon VMAX decks are being paired with Inteleon simply to get the searching cards out of your deck, the switching cards out of your deck, the energy acceleration cards out of your deck paired with Galar and Mine to kind of just stick your opponent to the active, do a ton of damage. Now I'll explain what Leafeon V and Leafeon VMAX do. Leafeon V has the ability Greeting Cells. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a grass energy attached to one of your Pokemon. If you use this ability, your turn ends. So now with combination with Galar Mine, stuff like that, you can kind of get a free energy acceleration, especially going first. Especially going first, if you get a Leafeon V onto the board, an attachment, and then a Greening Cells, all of a sudden you're set up for a turn 2 attack with Max Leaf, or even Grass Knot. Leafeon V's second attack Leaf Blade does 90 plus 60, which is not really something to write home about, but it is what it is. It does a ton of damage still. It can knock out a lot of those Pokemon that are weak to grass, the VMAX Pokemon specifically, if you do hit heads. So that is something that is important to note, specifically, especially with the Inteleon snipes that are coming through, if you're playing Quick Shooting, as well as the Shady Dealings, which I see no reason not to, because the damage output for this deck is not typically considered what we would, consider a high octane, high profile deck. It's more of a control style, like slow and steady, like death by 1,000 cuts style of deck. Leafeon VMAX comes in with Grass Knot. Grass Call is 60 times each energy cost in your opponent's retreat cost. And now there's cards like Air Balloon that remove those cards. But with Galar Mine and some of these other stadium cards, you're going to be able to just add 120 damage off the bat. So setting up 2 shots across the board wherever you need them in tandem with Max Leaf, which would do 170 and then heal your Pokemon. Now, there aren't that many good Fire-type Pokemon in the format, which makes Leafeon even stronger. And there are a couple of Pokemon that are going to be critically weak to grass coming up that are very powerful, like Umbreon VMAX and Galarian Moltres. So having a way to deal into these grass-type weak Pokemon with a card like this is really strong. I firmly believe in Leafeon VMAX's potential, and I think Leafeon VMAX is going to be a very strong card moving forward. So I think this is a must-buy for me, especially because I think this is going to be one of those cards that is not like talked about too much off the upcoming rip. But as soon as people start investing their time into the deck, they will realize how good the deck actually is after putting time into it. Now, next up is Suicune. Suicune V, I think, is a staple 4 of, and I put 4 just because you could play a whole deck just around Suicune. It doesn't even have to be a Suicune deck, but I think Suicune's one of those cards that's super splashable into any deck because of its Swift Runner ability. Now, Swift Runner says once during your turn, if it's in your active spot, you may use this ability, draw a card. So Suicune becomes a really good pivot to throw Air Balloon onto, and Blizzard Rondo is an attack that kind of hits all the check marks. It's a water and a colorless, so any deck that plays Aurora can use this. Any deck that plays water energy already can use this very effectively. 20 plus 20 for each bench Pokemon, both yours and your opponent. Now, a lot of the time, you're going to assume you're bench locked for an attack like Blizzard Rondo, and your opponent's probably got 3 or 4 on the bench, so you're hitting for almost 180 every time. 180, 200, almost like every time off the bat, which is really good numbers for a 2-shot, especially for a 2-prizer. So in a deck like playing this in something like, I don't know, like Ice Rider, or even one deck I have like an idea for is like Melanie Urshifu. And if you're playing Melanie Rapid Strike Urshifu, you could literally just play this guy in the Urshifu deck to have some more draw cards, and you can Melanie to it as well to have a draw supporter. And yeah, like Swift Runner is a card that draws you a card. Melanie gets you another 3. So it's just a card that naturally combos in. It could be a deck all on its own where you just play a bunch of these guys, maybe some Inteleons, maybe something else, just something that fills your bench. Maybe Zacians to deal with some weakness potentials. Like just across the board, just play like strong 2-prize attackers. And you can play like a big basic style deck. Next up is Flaffy. Flaffy is a card that needs no introduction. It has the ability Dynamotor. Flaffy is probably one of the most talked about cards in this set, just because of its combination and pairing with Rayquaza VMAX, which we'll talk about on a different slide actually. It is in the must-buy category if you guys are like, Rahul, what are you doing? Are you crazy? No, it's in there, but I'll explain it because it's got an asterisk. Flaffy itself is going to be a very strong card, and this is something where like I recommend just buying 4 of, because even if it's like Rayquaza isn't the overarching best partner for it, eventually something else will come up. Every Dynamotor partner has had something that has made it strong. Bronzong had Aegislash, Malamar had Giratina, and then the old Electric had Rayquaza. So every kind of deck has had its partner, and these decks have always been on the cusp of tier 1, if not in tier 1. So I definitely wouldn't sleep on this card. I think it's the most talked about card, so I don't think anyone's sleeping on it, but definitely worth picking up. Now, coming into the Sylveon VMAX line, I don't think you actually need a 4-4 line. I just simply put 4 because I don't actually know what the correct count is, because there's multiple ways to play Sylveon VMAX. Now, Sylveon V has Dream Gift. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for 1 item card and put it into your hand. Going first, really, really, really good once again. Like, cards like this are really, really strong going first, both Leafeon and Sylveon. I severely underestimated how different the post-rotation meta would be, and after playing it, having a card like this and having a card like Graining Cells are just really, really strong, because you can just shift the tempo really strongly into the upcoming turn, grabbing a Quick Ball, grabbing an Evolution Incense, grabbing, I don't know, like, yeah. And especially if you're playing Sylveon VMAX in a toolbox style deck, like Blaziken, Zeraora, Passimian, Urshifu, this guy, like when you put it all together into one, like, jambalaya pot, you've got a card that basically grabs you an Evolution Incense or a quick ball or something to just start getting set up as quickly as possible, because sometimes with toolbox style decks, the awkwardness lies in just having your setup cards not show up in your hand when you need them. um, Now, Sylveon V's attack, psychic or magical shot, doesn't really do anything, but Sylveon VMAX, on the other hand, has the attack Cherish Touch. For a psychic, attach an energy from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon, then heal 120 from that Pokemon. That attack is, I think, very slept on, because I think in this format where we're going into a two-shot format, having an attack that just heals 120 off of one of your Mons can make it so that Blaziken can come back up and get some more value, or that Urshifu can come back up, and now that that potential two-shot you had set up becomes a three-shot. And also could buy you an extra turn while you're digging for something like a Cheryl, or like just in general, like so in toolbox style decks. Max Harmony, 70 plus 30 for each type of Pokemon on your bench, is 3 energy cards, so it's a little bit steep to get to. You do have the Rapid Strike energy that fulfills that cost of 2, but it does not tick all the boxes. Now, I think Sylveon is very strong, maybe by itself, just like in a like bunch of stuff on the bench to like kind of build. But I think Toolbox is definitely the way to play Sylveon. I think you play it with the Blaziken, the Zeraora, the Passimian, the Octillery line, like all these like fun cards. But obviously the deck is going to be very reliant on Octillery to kind of be that pivotal focal point that pushes the deck to where it needs to be. Then we have Pumpkaboo, which has the ability Pumpkin Hole. It's like Resetting Hole, but it's a pumpkin. Yeah. When you put it on your hand or your bench, you may discard a Stadium and play, but it doesn't leave the board. So Pumpkaboo sticks, which is a little bit of a problem because bench locking is very important in this upcoming format. One problem I did notice a lot is that bench management is going to be a lot more crucial than it was in the past. Yes, I know that's weird to say with Dedenne and Crobat in the same format, but it feels like every deck has some sort of a setup engine behind it. So being able to get these cards into play is going to be very crucial. Now, it is a very good card, so I think buying 2 is very much a stable. I think you'll end up pulling these because this is an uncommon or common even. So I think you'll end up fine. I can't read I think it's a common, but you'll end up pulling them, so it's not even a big worry. But if you're just a strictly singles buyer, I'd just buy 2 because I think this card is like an easy slot into like something like Shadow Rider, just to deal with Path to the Peak. Makes it so you don't have to give your opponent a training court in situations where a training court could like giving them a training court could potentially lose you the game, or like dealing with your opponent's Sirchester Bath, or other stuff. It's just a good card to bump stadiums in general. That's searchable with Fog Crystal and Quick Ball. So even if you play 1 copy in your deck, you now have 9 outs to find this card. So just a simple way to think about that. Next up is Medicham V, probably one of my most favorite cards coming up in this upcoming set because I'm a Rapid Strike player. I really like Rapid Strike as a concept. It's got Yoga Loop. For 2 colorless energy, put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. If that Pokemon is knocked out by this attack, you get to take an extra turn. You can't continuously Yoga Loop, however, you can only do that once. But playing around with the damage counters, playing around with the numbers, getting it so you can Yoga Loop exactly, take the 2 extra prizes, can still lead up to a 6 prize turn. Kind of scuffed, but you can still make that 6 prize turn happen where you can go like Yoga Loop into, I don't know, like a Rapid Flow or something else, or force your opponent into a weird situation, or like have that extra turn to find the boss, or you have the boss now. Very good one-off tech. I don't know how exactly useful it will be, but I think it will be cool to have in the deck. I am excited to try this card out. Now, the next card needs no real introduction. It's Umbreon VMAX, literally my favorite Pokemon in the whole wide world, Umbreon. If you guys didn't know that, that's a fun fact for you. I love Shiny Umbreon more than anything. I have like 2 plushies just hanging out on my computer, and I have a bunch in my room as well. Shiny Umbreon, best boy. But Umbreon VMAX, both Umbreon V and VMAX are really good attackers. Umbreon V has Moonlight Blade 80 plus 80 if you have any damage counters on it. So using any single strike synergy, you are already putting damage counters on yourself. So you are now one-shotting anything that is Dark Weak as a VMAX. Umbreon VMAX has Dark Signal, which is basically just a gust effect, which is really, really strong. It can be pretty much teched into any deck. I think it's going to be teched into a lot of decks, just either a 2-2 line or a 3-3 line. Any deck that already plays Aurora Energy will have great use out of this just because of, what the deck provides. Yeah, and then Max Arc is just 160. So the baby does a lot of damage also. But this deck can be a standalone single strike deck. It can be a really strong deck in other aspects as well. So I think these are all for sure must-buy cards. Now, next slide here is the rest of the must-buy cards. We have I mean, I'm not going to end it just there, right? There's more cards you got to spend your money on. Altaria, I think, is like a 4 of, or 3 of at least. It says Luring Search. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, shuffle the rest of your deck, and put that supporter on top of your deck. So the basic synergy behind Altaria is Altaria Suicune could be a very easy to play deck. Altaria can also be slotted into a lot of other decks that have draw off the top. When a lot of decks do not have ability to find supporters besides Inteleon Engine, having a card like Altaria paired with Suicune that can slot into any deck. So these two entities can be slotted into any deck. You kind of have that ability to not play these niche supporters like Cheryl, Raihan, Zinnia, like all these like one of like Bead, like all these one of supporters that normally would not be good on their own would be much better when you have a search card, which is why I put Altaria on my must buy tier. I think Altaria is probably somewhere between the two tiers, but I definitely would lean towards it being a better card than not being a good card, because I definitely think one of the few decks that's going to emerge that people are going to try off the bat and I think is going to be very strong is Suicune Altaria, where you simply just have a way to flood your board, get a bunch of supporters into play, and do a ton of damage as quickly as possible. Next up is Rayquaza VMAX. Rayquaza, really cool card. I'm really excited to see how it performs because Sky High Wave is a really strong ability. Once you're doing turn, discard your hand and draw 3. And then G-Max Burst, which is discard either Fire or Lightning, 20 plus 80 for each one. Very reminiscent of the old Rayquaza. Gives a lot of people nightmares, a little bit of PTSD for people. And you have the Flaffy, so you have Ray Eels basically back in capacity. But the biggest problem that this deck is going to face that it didn't prior is the fact that Rapid Strike Urshifu exists, and there's a lot more bench sniping damage. Now, I put an asterisk next to this because I think Rayquaza is going to be one of those cards that's going to be very expensive off the bat. So please, 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 unless IRL play comes back, or unless you are very, very invested in playing Rayquaza and already know, don't buy it until the price drops a little bit. I would kind of wait the 2 to 3 week gestation period of what's going on, kind of wait till people figure out that Rayquaza isn't really as strong of a tier 1, like tier S archetype as people are saying. I think it's going to fall between 1.5 and 2. Just because of the existence of Rapid Strike Urshifu. And that's not to say the card isn't very strong. I think it is probably one of the strongest cards standalone as well. It's just that Flaffies are going to get absolutely destroyed throughout the game. And like once your 3 Flaffies go down, like how are you going to necessarily, how are you meant to play the game when your deck is also discarding cards throughout the game? So you're not going to have a perfect start. Things are going to be weird. You can get one Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX and all of a sudden the game kind of ends. So, I'm very curious to see how the deck is going to flow. An idea I had that's like really, really stupid, but might be good is like a Blaziken, Zeraora, Rayquaza deck. I don't know how well it would flow. Play it with Octillery, kind of use the Rayquaza or the Blaziken to kind of like accelerate the energies onto the board. I don't know. Could be cool. Could be cute. It does fulfill the Rapid Strike requirement, so you get the Stadium. But alas, I don't think it's actually that good of an idea. But we'll see. We'll see how I like toy around with stuff on stream when PTCGO drops the cards. But I'm just saying, please, please, please don't invest heavily without knowing you're going to play this card, because this is probably going to be the most expensive card coming out of the set, besides the Umbreons. Now, next up is Raihan. I think you only need one Raihan ever. You can only play this card if one of your Pokemon was knocked out last turn. Choose one basic energy from your discard pile attached to one of your Pokemon. Search your deck for any one card and put it into your hand. You get a free computer search without discarding cards, and you get a free energy attachment. So in a deck like Rapid Strike, you pretty much get to have that either Yoga Loop, that G-Max Rapid Flow in back-to-back turns out of nowhere. Raihan is just a really, really strong card. I think this card has potential not only in Rapid Strike, but in other decks as well. I just don't know where yet. It'll be kind of interesting to see how the format folds out. Like, for example, the Suicune Toolbox deck could also be really strong, where you go grab that and something like a Toy Catcher to kind of clean up the game, or just actual Catcher to clean up the game. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on that card. Next up, we have the Snow Leaf Badge. I think 3 or 4 of is going to be a must-buy on Snow Leaf Badge, just because of the... 1, you get to get rid of weakness. 2, you get rid of retreat cost. So a card is already really, really strong. But now, what is it going to be paired with? It's Glaceon and Leafeon, right? Well, Leafeon's going to be playing Galar Mine, which increases the retreat cost of both active Pokemon by 2 retreat costs. So playing this card gives you the free retreat. Pretty strong. Way better than Air Balloon. Way better than anything else. Just gives you automatic free retreat. Pretty strong. You get the weakness removal to deal with Victini and other potential fire decks that are going to come into the format. You get the weakness removal on Glaceon as well to deal with Zacian style decks. Really, really strong as well. Can't complain about that. This card is probably the best of all the tools for the evolutions, and what they're paired with is really strong as well. So I really like this card. I think you're playing at least 2, maybe 3 in every single evolution, or like in every single Leafeon and Glaceon style deck. Yeah. And then we have the Stormy Range, which is basically our Brooklet Hill that searches for either a basic lightning Pokemon or a dragon type Pokemon and puts them onto your bench. And if you are paying attention to Rayquaza VMAX, that is both your Rayquaza V and your Mareep. So really strong card. Probably has uses in other decks as well that aren't as obvious. But I think this stadium is definitely the best stadium to buy and just hold and pick up and just have, like straight up. Zinnia's Resolve, also really strong. Discard 2, draw 1 card for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play. You get to thin some of those cards that aren't necessarily as good towards the late game. You're not pitching cards, which is a very important thing that research does. That research is getting worse and worse because this upcoming format, yes, you want to pitch and draw 7, but the problem is that you have a lot of research you can't discard. You're gonna have those awkward hands. So that's where Zinnia comes in. I think Zinnia is probably the only supporter I have seen that can contest with the 3 like staple supporters, Marnie, Research, and Boss. I think Zinnia can become another one of those, the 4th staple supporter in lists, just because you have the potential to draw up to 6 cards and get to thin out your hand a little bit. Now, you must discard 2, so if you can't fulfill that requirement, you can't draw it. So late game, like just having only Zinnia in your hand or like Zinnia plus 1 card is not good. So that's what kind of is a drawback there. But in essence, I think Zinnia is still very good. Now that must buys are done, if you don't really care about anything else in the video, like you don't care about Rahul's ramblings, you can just peace out. I know I've already been talking for quite a while. I'm going to talk about the potential cards now that I think are okay. Just because I want to, it's my video. So I want to talk about cards that I'm potentially going to buy that I think are okay. Pinsir. Pinsir is max power coaching as long as his Pokemon's in play. Damage under your single strike isn't affected by resistance. I don't know what has resistance right now that's relevant, but I think this card could be good if that comes into play. So I think 1 is fine. Trevenant, I think this card is also okay. I think Leafeon is just a better grass type attacker, so I think he's probably going to like stay in a binder if you ever decide to get him. But this isn't a card that I would go out of my way to buy unless I have a really broken combo with Trevenant, which has Forest Song 40 times each supporter in your opponent's discard pile. Now, granted, every deck plays like 10, maybe 12 supporters tops, so that is a lot of damage, but it's not damage that you're going to have in the early game. Early game, you're probably hitting for like 80, 120 tops, but yeah, it's the problem is like, how are you going to build this deck? How are you going to get there? What is the idea behind it? That's something I'm kind of struggling to put together in my head right now. So once that kind of becomes clear, maybe Trevenant has a place in the meta. We'll find out on PTCGO because I definitely think this card's not going to be an expensive card to get. Eldegoss, which has Cotton Transport, I think is a very cute card to get basic energy cards. I think there was something that combos with it. Smeargle maybe, I don't remember. Seems okay. Like you can use this guy to grab your psychic energies for Shadow Rider or something like that. I don't know. Could be okay. Again, these are cards that I think could be okay, but I don't have a way to like visualize them in my own head. Flareon VMAX. This card is really, really strong as a just, if you high roll, you're going to blow up things because you discard the top 5 cards of your deck and it's 100 times the number of energy. So you could just play like a really fun Flareon VMAX style deck where you just explode something really quickly and then copy and then pair it up with Volcarona, which is going to say 20 plus 20 for each basic in your discard pile and shuffle those cards into your deck. It's Victini Prism Star, but for a single fire. Very strong when paired with something like a Flareon VMAX deck. So you could play kind of like a theme deck style fire deck, which has been kind of the identity of fire for quite a while now. But it's just an interesting thing. So that's kind of where I see those two synergizing, but they're not like must buys by any means. Like I'm gonna play around with them on PTCGO, and if I pull them, I'm gonna be like, yeah, cool, I got Flareon because I love Flareon. But yeah, that's kind of it. I think Vaporeon is also a okay card because of Max Torrent and Bubble Pod putting the water Pokemon onto your bench. But the problem is like what water Pokemon are really strong enough that I can warrant using a turn to play bubble, like just burning a turn to do Bubble Pod. Yeah, I don't know. And then we have Ludicolo, which is when you evolve it in. It does a plus 100 damage for the basic Pokemon. So you could literally play Ludicolo into a Suicune engine, which I think is really cool. The problem is we lose Rosa. So if you were playing like Ludicolo, Altaria, Suicune, I could really easily see like an engine where you can like Rosa into like what you need. But also think with Raihan, you can play it really easily. We can go like Raihan for Candy, Candy to the Ludicolo. Now your Suicune's doing 100 plus damage. So I think that's definitely going to be a cool deck to try out. I don't know how I'm going to build it because it's a lot of stuff and a lot of setup. But I think that'd be a fun deck. I think it'd be a funny deck, but I don't think it's like something I'd invest in necessarily. Glaceon and Glaceon VMAX. Again, I think Glaceon VMAX is really strong because of the excluding the VMAX attacks to it. But I think a lot of the Vs are strong enough to deal with it, and your metal weakness is kind of a pain in the ass. But you do have the tool to get rid of that. But I think Zacian deck should be playing Scrapper anyway, like multiple Scrapper. I think they should already be playing like Tool Jammer or Scrapper or something. And Search Star Bath is really hard to deal with as well. And 150 and 30 is a not great amount of damage that you are doing, especially when you probably have to Melanie those cards on. Like Glaceon doesn't have a single strike nor rapid strike tag, so it's not a card that benefits from either of those. You simply have to Melanie or do it the old-fashioned way like our ancestors intended, 3 attachments. So then we have Jolteon. I think Jolteon's definitely got a lot of potential in expanded off the bat, but Max Thunderclap 100 plus 100 if they have damage counters on their bench, or 100 to 100 of the bench. So Zigzagoon comes into play. Some of these spread cards come into play. This card is really strong. I think this deck is cool just because you have the tool. The tool makes it viable. Without the tool, I don't think this card is good. This deck is good necessarily because you're fighting weak, which means Rapid Strike Urshifu is going to absolutely destroy you. It has exactly 300 as well, so it's not good. But that's why it's like definitely like a tier 2 to 3 deck if you build that deck. It seems funny, but that's about it. Then we have Reggie, a LAKEY. I think this card can be really cool in like a singleton, like flaffy baby one prizers deck. Again, you do struggle against things like Rapid Strike, but maybe it offsets with the Terravolt doing 120, discarding, and then doing 240. That is like a lot of damage, right? Like you're doing 120 to the active and 20 and 40 to 2 things. So with other like baby lightning Pokemon, maybe you can get to those numbers that you need. I need to like look through the entire lightning database, kind of figure out what cards seem playable, what cards seem like they're going to be strong across the board, and kind of figure out what synergies you could build with like a fluffy single prizer deck, because I think that could be a really strong deck if built correctly, if you have the right resources. Obviously, sniping cards that snipe are going to be the bane of your existence, but that's always been the case with like single prizer decks. Anything that can like circumvent dealing with your attacker. Galarian Articuno is probably the only one of the 3 birds I think is worth potentially getting, because just slamming the cool charge with the 2 psychic energies does give you plus 60 damage on Shadow Rider. Now it's unclear whether or not you want to have those energies in the deck or not, but also I think Psycho Laser is a very strong attack to just do 120 snipe, especially in a hidden deck list format where you can already hit something for a certain amount of damage, and if they're not playing healing, you can just finish it up with a Psycho Laser to clean up the game. Considering Shadow Rider doesn't do one shots until probably turn 4, maybe turn 3, turn 4, even turn 5. So you are a slow ramping deck, but having Cool Charge and Psycho Laser does give you that little bit of a burst that nobody kind of expected, where you can Fog Crystal for it and then just slam it, especially with Training Quartz being in the deck. So yeah, good card, I think. Another cool card that I wanted to talk about is the Marshadow, which has Rapid Hunt. Search deck for 2 Rapid Strike cards, reveal them, put them into your hand. If you're playing the Rapid Strike style toolbox going second, this is a really strong card. You can just even play like 1 or 2 Sobbles, honestly, in the Rapid Strail decks, just to have a better starter, which I was thinking about. And then Shadow Flicker is 10. If they're knocked out, take 1 more prize card. So if you can kind of maneuver the damage counters in the way you want to, you can Shadow Flicker and take that extra prize card out of nowhere, which I think is really invaluable, especially in Urshifu. So don't know if it can slot in and you can do it effectively enough, but if you could, that'd be pretty cool. That's why it's just in the maybe okay category. Then we have Zoroark, which I really like this card for expanded. Illusion Transformation does say that search your deck for a stage 1 evolution, excluding Zoroark, discard this Pokemon, all cards attached, put this new one in that position. So in expanded, definitely good with something like Vespiquen. In standard, I don't know if it's good whatsoever because there isn't enough of a pool to kind of pick and choose from. And again, all the extent of the work you're putting in to get where you need to be is not worth it a lot of the time with a card like this in standard. But in expanded, kind of busted, where you can just kind of get the B up and running. Means you can play less combis, making you just play like, this becomes another combi or like a Vespiquen. It gets Pokemon to this card easier, that's why it's on here, but it's not really that strong. So Thievul is a card that I thought was really cool. I don't know how I want to make it work yet, but it could be a really strong Pokemon, where its ability Fumble Hand when you evolve, each player can shuffle their hand and put it on the bottom of your deck and draw 4 cards. So Thievul is a little bit of extra dig for yourself. It's kind of a free Marnie, and I always think cards that do the effect of a supporter without using your supporter for the turn are going to be really strong. Now Thievul is on a stage 1. and it is an on-evolve effect, so it is not as strong, but I think the card's cool. Now, Duraludon is the sleeping cousin of Rayquaza in this set, where Duraludon and Rayquaza were meant to be the forefronts of the set in Japan. Now, Duraludon VMAX, because we have the Duraludon V baby that is Steel type, it is much easier to saucer onto it and get the ball rolling. Skyscraper is really good because a lot of decks do play special energy, and I think that's going to be the trend because there's a lot of really good special energy in the format. So Skyscraper is very strong against that special energy style of deck, but there is also a lot of shred. And then Gmax Polarization does 220 and shreds, I guess. So 220 vanilla is very strong, especially when you can saucer onto this guy. With no weakness, it's fine as well, but you have retreat cost. The problem is going to come into when you run into a deck that can actually one-shot you or put enough pressure on you where getting that second Duraludon is going to become a lot harder because you're going to be a saucer-style Stage 1 deck. Maybe you can play like a Duraludon Zacian-style deck with Auroras or just basic fightings, and you can slot in like Galarian Zapdos as well to kind of just get free attacks in, pepper the damage because 170, 220, one shot there, 230, 220, one shot there, 230, 170. The math works out really perfectly. Bam, I just gave you guys a Duraludon deck. I just came up with it on the spot. So, could be cool. I like Duraludon a lot. I want to make it work. I'm going to put some time into it when it comes out, for sure. Then we have the G Fuel Shaker, Booster Shake. When you use this card, your turn ends. Search your deck for a card that evolves, blah, 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 and evolve. Now, this is not necessarily good in Standard. I don't think there's anything that benefits off it greatly. But I do think in Expanded, it's going to be very strong. I don't know in what capacity, but it'll be good. Definitely keep an eye out for that. Then we have Crystal Cave, which heals 30 from Metal and Dragon type Pokemon. And then that's going to be really good in a deck like Duraludon, which, well, you're going to be hopefully not getting one-shot by anything. So in a deck like Duraludon, you could play the Crystal Cave, Cheryl's, stuff like that. And Crystal Cave also heals Zacians really well. So in a deck like Zacian, like straight Zacian, paired with like toughness, Cape of Toughness, stuff like that, you can just heal a bunch as well. Because there's very few decks that are going to be one-shotting you. It really gives Zacian another way to play the game, which I really like. Especially Zamazenta as well, because Zamazenta is going to struggle with a lot of these V Pokemon one-shotting it, or two-shotting it, sorry, and it not being able to two-shot back, or it's going to have to three-shot, but the Stadium might offset the math a little bit, especially with Cape of Toughness. Then we have Elemental Badge, which I think is the cooler one, because all three of the Pokemon that I thought were cool, Vaporeon, Jolteon, Flareon, I would not have put in the cool category if this card didn't exist, because it reduces their attack by 1 colorless, which means Jolteon can attack for 1 lightning. Nope, let me go back. Vaporeon can attack for a water and a colorless, and Flareon can attack for fire and a colorless, which makes all of their attacks far more feasible than what they would have been. Definitely like that card for that very reason. Makes all of these 3 cards playable, at the very least. So, and then we have the Trolley. Trolley says 2 of 90 HP or less, put them into your hand. It's going to be really good for Flaffy style decks. It's going to be really good for any setup style deck. Inteleon decks even potentially can play a 1-of because that becomes late game. If you have a Sobble in play, it just becomes a Drizzle, which becomes a supporter, etc., etc., etc. Really cool card. That's why I think you should buy 2 of, but I don't think it's a must because I think Ordinary Rod is just strictly better. Then we got the Mask, which says if your Pokemon's damaged in the active, your opponent chooses a card from the hand, discards it. Could be good with Trevenant, could be good with other decks. I don't really know. Hand size or hand disruption has always been strong, so maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Could be good. Could be bad. Could be awful. But not something I'll buy. I'll probably just pull it and hold it. Toy Catcher. Select one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with 50 or less and put it in there active. So definitely good with all the sniping style decks. Definitely good with Inteleon, stuff like that. You can kind of force the issue while not using a Lysander for turn or Bosses for turn. So that's why it's, I think, good. But not necessarily novel. It's hard. 50 HP is hard to get below, especially with these big VMAXs. So, yeah, I don't know if it's good, but it's cool. And these are some of the cards I think that are not worth investing in. The traps, the things that will draw you in, and you'll get stuck. Jumpluff. Fluffy Combo Strike is cool. You get to do a second turn, but you're doing 60 damage. Solar Evolution, the ability underneath it on Skiploom, really cool. When you evolve, when you attach energy to this Pokemon, you can just get the Jumpluff out of your deck. Really cool. Really good setup. Again, you have 90 HP. You are doing 60 damage. That is not nearly enough. It is a trap. Then we have Gyarados. Gyarados. I don't understand why you need so many energy to do 240. We don't need you. I'm sorry. You're just cool, but you suck. Milotic to prevent all the hand effects. So that's basically just Marnie. Suck it up, just get Marnie. It's fine. It just honestly just doesn't matter. Swishy Washy seems like a good card. When you get 3 energy on it, it gets 150 HP. And it does 30 plus 30 for each basic energy attached to this Pokemon. It seems like a really cool card to put into any Melanie style deck, any Frostmoth style deck. Don't. I just feel like this card's a trap. Like, you're going to open it, you're going to be like really sad that you opened it, and all of a sudden you're going to lose. I mean, in a Frostmoth style deck, maybe it could be good, but I just don't think it's worth like thinking about for too long and investing into. Arctifish, this card just kind of blows. I don't understand what it does, why it's here. It's just, all the fossils are just not good. Dracozolt, for 4 energy, you're doing 200. And then Spark Trap is okay because you do 60 and then 12 damage counters if you're being attacked into. But everything can kind of circumvent that. There's like Rope, there's bosses, there's so many, like Umbreons also coming into the format. Dracozolt just cannot sit in the active and do what it needs to do. Aspeon VMAX, as long as this Pokemon is in the active, each Pokemon that has energy attached isn't affected by the effective attack on the opponent's Pokemon. There aren't that many effective attacks, so Espeon doesn't really do anything. 60 times 60 Psychic, max Psychic, but I just think that is not enough to do what you need to do with this deck. And also having a Dark type weakness means you're doubling into anything that loses to Shadow. Like, you're losing to things that already beat Shadow Rider, and you're losing even harder. Like Moltres is just going to absolutely destroy you. Yeah. Golurk I thought was kind of cool for like a second, and then I realized that Rewind Beam needs 4 energy. That's a lot of energy. So I've decided that Golurk is not going to be good. Now we have the Galarian Zapdos. I don't ever see a world where you're playing a deck with this many fighting energy that you need to put them down with Charge. And then Thunderous Kick is 70 and Paralyzed, but there's so many ways to get out of Paralysis. Sure, this card could become a really niche card in a fighting style deck if people just kind of don't play switches and stuff, but I don't see a deck that plays a lot of fighting in the current format, or like enough to justify discarding 3 for an attack like this. Lycanroc VMAX also seems really cool. Choose one of your opponent's Pokemon with 60 or less, knock it out. Again, very niche scenario to just knock it out. And then Max Edge is 190 and 30, which is a lot of damage, don't get me wrong. But the Grass weakness is a little bit of a pain with Leafeon coming out. And I do think that they're just better fighting cards, especially because there's no fighting acceleration specifically. So you are going to have to manually attach those 3 fighting energies across the game. So not a good card. And then we have the Galarian Moltres. Again, I don't think there's a situation where you need to Dark Charge those cards onto the board. Fire Wrath is kind of cool because it does 20 plus 50 for each prize card they've already taken. But again, it's a very high maintenance card to get into play. Maybe it's good. I don't think it is. I personally tried it a little bit, and I just don't like it. So, Garbodor, its attack is just really bad. It's 120. Their poison can't retreat. But most cards, like I said, decks play Switch, Rope, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of ways to move around it. You're weak to fighting. Again, not a really good weakness to have right now in this format. And then Trash Hoarding with the 2 tools is cool, but I think like you would need to be like disruption tools like Double Mask or Mask plus like Eviolite or something. I don't know. Like, it has to be disruption tools, and that's like the only option you have. So it feels really niche. Could be cute. I just don't think it's good. If it was Psychic type, maybe it'd be better just because you can Fog Crystal for the baby pieces and stuff. But being Dark type just makes it, I think, far worse in terms of what it offers. Noivern needs a lot of like maintenance to just kind of get matching and get the stuff rolling on the board. I just don't think it's worth it. Both the Applin and Appleton, or Flapple and Appleton, are really cool cards once again. Acid Slime is 50 times the number of abilities. Could do a lot of damage. I just don't think it's going to do enough when push comes to shove. I think Appleton for 70 times the special energy is also really good, but I think a lot of the special energy style decks are going to be either discarding them or like, I think you probably like Single Strike, which is fine, but like Rapid Strike's going to discard the energies. It's like, that's the first thought in my mind. And any deck that plays Call Energy probably only plays Call Energy, so your damage is going to be limited to like 140 tops, or they can just retreat the Call Energy off of whatever they have it on, and then your damage is hard. They both have Gung Ho Tackle, which does do 160, but Fire Grass is a really awkward combination of typing. So don't think this card's good. I don't think it's worth buying into. Then we have some of the supporters. I think obviously the Draw 2 Heal all special conditions, very weird supporter. Don't think I want to buy into that. I think Dream Ball is a very weird supporter as well, or trainer card. One, it has to be taken as a face down prize card, so if you're going to pull it off, you need to do some like weird Peonia combo. And at that point, you're investing so many cards into getting this Dream Ball combo to get a single Pokemon card to put onto your bench, but there's no Pokemon that's so broken that's worth putting onto your bench. The full face shield, I haven't put it on the slide, but also think is like very mediocre. A lot of the trainers in the set are very mediocre because they just seem like very niche, niche situation cards, which could be really good in a set or two. But right now, I don't see the potential for them. Moon and Sun Badge is interesting because it's supporter card, prevent all effects to that Pokemon, so you can prevent the boss's orders. But I feel like you're gonna have more than one Umbreon in play, or like more than one Espeon in play, which requires you to play more Sun Moon badges, which means you're just clunking up your deck with these cards that don't really do anything besides prevent boss. But also, if the other person's playing Umbreon, your Umbreon's already going to be brought into the active anyway. So again, just don't think it's good. Ribbon Badge. If Sylveon's knocked out, take one less prize card. It could be really cute in a Sylveon style straight deck, something like that. But again, if you're playing a Sylveon, you're probably playing in a toolbox style deck, which means you've already got a lot of one prizers, two prizes in play. So your opponent can really always go to the 3-2-1 strategy or the 3-3 strategy or 3-1-1. So it doesn't mean that making your one Sylveon weaker to giving up prize cards is going to help you when you're already playing other 3 prizes that are also susceptible to the format. I think the Treasure Energy is the last card I wanted to talk about. It just is interesting because if you took it face down, you can attach it to one of your Pokemon. But I just think in the general sense, like, why are you like cheesing into that one card? But that is my like what to buy list. I know I like sped through the last 2 slides because they were kind of like more niche and like less of a necessity kind of style of cards. But the cards I mentioned earlier on the what to buy list are the cards that I planning on getting them myself. And if you guys are interested in see how I use them, PTCGO streams on twitch.tv/theflea, and I will take some of those deck lists and put them on YouTube as well. So please subscribe to the channel, like the video to let me know that you guys are enjoying it. It'll be definitely fun to do all this stuff. I'm really excited to continue doing Evolving Skies content. I'm really excited to do content. Yeah, let me know what I can do to the channel to make it better. What kind of stuff you guys want to see. Definitely want to work on commentary. Definitely want to work on doing analysis style decks and analysis style videos and doing some more games and like just coming back to Pokemon because I've been spending a lot of time doing Unite and traveling with my family and stuff like that. But summer's over. I'm home. It's time to make content and it's time to become Pokemon Masters together. Until tomorrow, or not tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a video tomorrow. But see you guys. Peace.